Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that might sound a little intimidating at first glance, Stoicism.
Oh, yeah.
But stick with us. This ancient philosophy is actually full of incredibly useful advice for navigating the craziness of modern life.
That's right.
You've sent over some really cool stuff about Stoicism, and we're going to dig into how it can help you find strength and freedom even when things feel totally out of control.
Absolutely.
Are you ready to unlock some ancient secrets?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Stoicism is all about focusing on what you can control, and I think that's a really powerful concept in a world where so much feels out of our control.
Exactly. And it's not about just being passive or ignoring our problems, but more like a strategic way to approach all the challenges.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes that you sent over is from Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.
Oh, wow.
I just love that. It's about turning obstacles into opportunities, and I can't wait to dig into that more.
Yeah, that's a great one.
But you know what I'm also really interested in? It seems like Stoicism has a lot to say about our emotions. I used to think it was all about suppressing your feelings, but it seems like it's more about understanding them so they don't rule us.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Stoicism really encourages us to look at our emotions and understand where they come from.
Okay.
It's not about being emotionless, but more about not letting our emotions, like you said, rule our decisions and actions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
We also have some material here about negative visualization. It sounds counterintuitive, but I'm really curious how imagining worst-case scenarios could actually help us appreciate what we have right now.
Yeah, it's a really powerful tool for building resilience and getting perspective.
Okay.
It's not about being all doom and gloom, but more about mental preparation and gratitude.
Okay. I'm hooked. I'm totally ready to get philosophical
All right, let's do it.
and figure out how to apply these ancient ideas to the crazy stuff we all face today.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the basics of Stoicism.
Okay.
What are the core principles that make up this whole philosophy?
At its heart, Stoicism is all about understanding our place in the universe and focusing on what we can control.
Okay.
The Stoics believed that the universe is governed by reason, like a universal order, and that everything happens for a reason.
Okay, so that sounds comforting in a way, but doesn't that risk making people passive? Oh, if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah, that's a really common misconception.
Okay.
Stoicism isn't about just accepting everything passively.
Okay.
It's about taking all your energy and focusing it on what you can actually influence, like your thoughts, your actions, and your judgments.
Okay.
And that empowers you to navigate all the external stuff more effectively.
So instead of being totally overwhelmed by everything, Stoicism helps you identify where you can actually make a difference.
Exactly. It's about finding that internal locus of control
Okay.
and acting with intention and purpose.
I like that.
Another key thing about Stoicism is the emphasis on virtue. In fact, there are 4 cardinal virtues they focused on: wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control.
Whoa, those are some pretty big concepts. How can someone actually apply these virtues to their daily life? Let's say you're feeling super overwhelmed at work.
Yeah.
Deadlines are looming, projects are piling up. How could these virtues help you deal with that kind of situation?
Let's take wisdom as an example.
Okay.
Wisdom in a Stoic sense means seeking knowledge and understanding. So in that work situation, it could look like taking a step back to assess the situation clearly,
Okay.
understanding why you're so stressed,
Yeah.
and then figuring out how to prioritize all those tasks effectively.
So instead of just getting swept up in all the chaos,
Right.
you take a minute to strategize and approach it with a clear head.
Exactly. Okay. Then you have justice,
Mhm.
which in a work context could mean treating your colleagues fairly, communicating clearly, and setting healthy boundaries.
Okay.
Courage would give you the strength to face those difficult conversations, to ask for help when you need it,
Yeah.
and to delegate tasks to others.
That's really interesting. It's like each virtue gives you a different way to look at the same situation and approach it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have self-control, which is super important for managing your time,
Yeah.
avoiding distractions, and staying laser focused on your goals. It's all about being disciplined and not procrastinating.
Okay, so it's not just about weathering the storm. It's
Well,
about actually taking control and being proactive to manage all that stuff and stay balanced.
Exactly. And when you put all those virtues into practice, they can really make a difference, even in those super overwhelming situations.
Wow, that's really helpful. I can already see how these virtues could apply to so many different challenges.
Yeah.
It's about approaching things with a clear mind, acting with integrity, and taking charge of what you can control.
Exactly. Stoicism gives you this framework for navigating all the ups and downs of life with resilience and purpose. And a lot of that framework comes from some of the Stoic sayings that have stuck around for centuries.
Yes. Let's talk about those sayings.
Okay.
I'm super curious to hear how these ancient nuggets of wisdom can be used today.
Mm-hmm.
One that really resonated with me, and I think this is from Seneca, is we suffer more often in imagination than in reality.
Oh, well, that's a good one.
And this feels so relevant to like all the anxiety we feel today, especially with how much we overthink and get caught in those what if scenarios.
Oh, absolutely. That quote reminds us that a lot of times we're the ones creating our own suffering.
Oh, yeah.
By dwelling on all those imagined scenarios, it's about recognizing that our anxieties usually come from our thoughts rather than what's actually happening.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that. Especially with social media and all the information coming at us, it's easy to get caught up in negative thinking.
Yeah.
So is Stoicism saying we should just ignore all our anxieties and pretend everything's fine?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
It's about taking a step back,
Okay.
looking at your thoughts objectively. Okay. And asking yourself, is this worry based on something real, or am I just letting my imagination run wild?
Okay.
It's about grounding yourself in this moment and looking at the situation rationally.
That is a powerful reminder. It's so easy to get lost in those mental rabbit holes of anxiety.
Yes.
But Stoicism is saying, hey, wait a second. Pause, breathe, and figure out if this is a real problem or just your imagination going crazy.
Exactly. And when you do that,
Yeah.
you can often regain a sense of control and perspective, and you'll feel a lot less stressed and anxious.
This is making so much sense. It's not about denying our feelings. It's about being mindful of them.
Exactly.
And not letting them, like you said, rule us.
It's about having a good relationship with your thoughts and emotions.
Okay, this is fascinating. I'm ready to dive into more of these Stoic sayings and see how they can help us navigate today's world.
Let's do it.
What other gems of wisdom do you have for us?
Oh, we have plenty more coming up.
All right, I'm ready.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into Stoicism. We've been talking about the main ideas and some thought-provoking sayings.
Yes.
And now I'm really excited to see how we can actually use these ancient ideas in our modern lives.
Me too. And I'm especially curious about that negative visualization thing we talked about before.
Okay.
It still sounds a little weird to me, but I'm ready to have my mind blown.
It's all about preparing yourself mentally for challenges so that you can really appreciate what you have right now.
Okay.
For example, imagine you're feeling anxious about giving a presentation at work.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of letting that anxiety take over, take some time to actually visualize what would happen if it didn't go perfectly.
Okay, wait. So instead of stressing about it, I should intentionally think about it going badly. Isn't that going to make me even more anxious?
Not necessarily. The key is to go beyond just imagining the negative outcome
Okay.
and think about how you'd handle it.
Okay.
What steps would you take? What resources could you use? How would you adapt and move forward?
So it's not about dwelling on the negative stuff, but more about mentally rehearsing how you deal with it and realizing that even if things go wrong, you can still handle it.
Exactly. By preparing yourself mentally for those potential setbacks, you can actually reduce your anxiety in the present moment.
Okay.
You're basically taking away the fear of the unknown and replacing it with a feeling of preparedness.
That makes sense. It's like having a plan B ready.
Yeah.
It's not about expecting things to go wrong, but knowing that if they do, you're not going to totally freak out.
You've already thought it through.
You've already been there mentally.
Exactly. It's about building up resilience and resourcefulness.
I like that.
And speaking of resilience, another powerful Stoic practice is mindfulness.
Oh, yeah. Mindfulness is like everywhere these days.
It is.
Everyone's talking about meditation and being present. How does that fit into Stoicism?
Mindfulness is all about paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and sensations in your body
Okay.
without judging them. It's about being fully present in this moment.
Yeah.
Instead of getting caught up in worries about the past or anxieties about the future.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah,
We're constantly bombarded with distractions and our minds are always racing.
all the time.
So it sounds like mindfulness is like a way to hit the pause button on all that mental noise.
Exactly. And that pause button can be so powerful.
Okay.
It gives you a chance to observe your thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them. You become the observer of your own mind
Okay.
rather than letting it control you.
That's a cool way to think about it, being the observer of your own mind. It's like you're taking a step back and getting some perspective on your own inner world.
Exactly. And that perspective is key for for making clear decisions and handling tough situations.
It's like instead of being tossed around by the waves of your emotions, you're standing on the shore watching them
Yeah,
and then choosing how you want to respond.
that's a great analogy. And it reminds me of another important Stoic principle, focusing on what you can control.
We talked about that a little bit earlier,
We did.
but I'm ready to dive in deeper.
Okay.
How can we actually use this idea in everyday situations that tend to throw us off? Can you give me some real-world examples?
Absolutely. Let's say you're dealing with a difficult coworker.
Oh, yeah. Those are the worst.
You can't control their behavior, but you can control how you react to it.
Okay.
You can choose to get caught up in their negativity,
Yeah.
or you can stay calm, set boundaries, and focus on your own work.
So it's not about ignoring the problem or pretending it doesn't exist,
Yeah,
but it's about choosing how you respond to it.
exactly. It's about taking responsibility for your own inner state, even when things are tough externally.
That's so empowering. It's like you're taking back your power in a situation where you might otherwise feel powerless.
Exactly. Here's another example. Let's say you're stuck in traffic,
Oh,
which we all know can be super frustrating.
it's worse.
You can't control the traffic,
Nope.
but you can control how you use that time.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How can I apply Stoic thinking to being stuck in traffic? That sounds like a recipe for road rage.
Instead of getting all worked up and stressed, you could listen to an audiobook, catch up on a podcast.
Like this one, maybe?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you could just use that time for some quiet reflection or mindfulness practice.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. It's about shifting your focus from what you can't control to what you can,
Right.
even in those little annoying moments.
Exactly. And that shift in focus can make a huge difference in how you feel overall and how peaceful you feel.
This is making a lot of sense. So far, we've talked about negative visualization of mindfulness and focusing on what we can control. These all seem like really helpful tools for dealing with the ups and downs of life.
They are.
But I'm wondering how Stoicism deals with those big decisions we have to make, those moments when you're at a crossroads and need to make a choice.
Yeah,
Does it have anything to say about that?
absolutely. Remember those 4 cardinal virtues we discussed? Wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control.
Yes.
They can be really powerful guides when you're making decisions.
Okay, so let's say I'm facing a really tough decision at work.
Okay.
One that has ethical implications. How could those virtues help me figure out what to do?
Wisdom would guide you to gather all the information,
Okay.
consider all the possible consequences of your actions,
Mm-hmm.
and even ask for advice from people you trust.
Okay.
Justice would make you think about fairness,
Right.
the impact your decision would have on everyone involved,
Yeah.
and whether your actions are lining up with your values.
So I'm not just thinking about what's best for me,
Right.
considering the bigger picture and how it affects other people.
Exactly. It's about making decisions that are ethically sound
Okay.
and contribute to the greater good.
I like that. It's like Stoicism is giving you a moral compass
Yeah.
to help you navigate those tricky situations.
Exactly. And don't forget, courage is essential too. It might take courage to stand up for what's right,
Yeah.
even if it's not popular, or to make a tough decision that goes against the grain.
That's a good point. Sometimes the right decision is not the easy one.
Exactly. And that's where self-control comes in.
Okay.
It's about resisting the temptation to make a decision based on fear, greed, or just impulsiveness.
So it's about taking a step back, really thinking things through and making a choice that aligns with your values and principles,
Yeah.
even if it's hard.
Exactly. Stoicism provides a framework for making decisions that are thoughtful, ethical, and in line with your best self.
This is all so fascinating. It's like Stoicism gives you a whole new way to look at making decisions.
Yeah.
It's not just about what's best for me right now,
Right.
but about making choices that are wise, just, and courageous.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial part of Stoicism, how it approaches emotions.
Yes. I'm really excited to talk more about this.
We touched on it briefly, but I want to really understand the Stoic perspective on emotions.
Yeah.
It's such a big topic these days.
It is.
Everyone's talking about emotional intelligence and managing feelings.
Yeah.
So how does Stoicism fit into all of that?
Remember, Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions.
Right.
It's about understanding them,
Okay.
managing them effectively,
Right.
and not letting them control us.
It's not about being like a robot.
Yeah,
It's more about being in control of your emotional state, like the captain of your ship,
exactly.
navigating those choppy waters with skill.
Exactly. And Stoicism actually gives us some practical techniques for regulating our emotions,
Okay.
which can be super helpful in our modern world.
I'm all ears. What are some of those techniques?
Okay.
And how can we use them to deal with those really intense emotions that can throw us off balance?
One technique is called cognitive distancing.
Okay. What's that?
It involves noticing your emotions without getting completely carried away by them.
For example, instead of saying, I'm angry,
Yeah.
you might say, I'm noticing that I'm feeling anger.
It's like creating a little bit of space between you and the emotion, almost
Yeah.
like stepping back and observing it from
Yeah.
a distance.
That separation helps you respond to the emotion more thoughtfully
Okay.
instead of just reacting without thinking.
That's interesting. It's like instead of being consumed by the fire of anger,
Yeah,
you're taking a step back and saying, okay, there's a fire here. Let's figure out how to manage it.
exactly. Another technique is rational analysis.
What's that?
It involves looking closely at the thoughts and beliefs that are causing the emotion.
Okay.
So if you're anxious about something,
Right.
ask yourself, what evidence do I have to support this worry? Is this thought even rational or helpful?
So it's about challenging those negative thoughts that can spiral out of control
Yeah,
and seeing if they're actually true.
exactly. It's about using reason and logic
Right.
to get a clearer perspective and manage your emotions.
This is all making so much sense. It's like Stoicism is giving us a whole toolkit
Yeah.
for emotional regulation,
Mhm.
empowering us to handle those tough emotions with more skill and resilience.
Exactly. And remember, emotions are a natural part of being human. It's not about denying them or pretending they don't exist, but it's about understanding them, managing them well,
Yeah.
and not letting them run the show.
Okay, so we've talked about how Stoicism can help us deal with challenges, make decisions, and manage our emotions.
We have.
But I'm curious, how does it all fit into our modern world, which seems obsessed with always striving and achieving? It's like
Yeah.
we're always supposed to be doing more, achieving more, acquiring more. Does Stoicism have anything to say about that?
It definitely does.
Okay.
In fact, Stoicism offers a really valuable counterpoint to that whole hustle culture mentality.
Okay.
Remember how Stoicism emphasizes simplicity and moderation?
Yes.
Those principles can be so grounding in a world that's always pushing us to want more.
Okay, I'm listening. How can Stoicism help us resist that pressure to keep up with everyone else?
It's about recognizing that true contentment doesn't come from external achievements or possessions.
Okay.
It comes from inside, from living a life that's aligned with your values and principles.
So it's not about giving up on your goal,
Right.
but it's about finding a sense of balance and fulfillment
Yeah.
that doesn't depend on external validation or material things.
Exactly. It's about focusing on what truly matters, building meaningful relationships, contributing to something bigger than yourself, and living a life of virtue.
That's a powerful message, and I think it's one that we all need to hear,
I agree.
especially today. It's easy to get caught up in that cycle of wanting more,
Yeah,
but Stoicism reminds us that true happiness comes from within.
it does. And speaking of finding contentment from within, I want to introduce you to another interesting Stoic practice,
Okay.
the practice of voluntary discomfort.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing.
It is.
What exactly is voluntary discomfort, and how does it fit into Stoicism?
It's about intentionally putting yourself in situations that are a little uncomfortable or challenging
Okay.
to build up your resilience
Yeah.
and appreciate what you already have.
So it's if you're used to things being a certain way, you intentionally shake things up
Exactly.
and make yourself more adaptable.
Exactly. For example, you might take a cold shower,
Mm.
skip a meal, or even sleep on the floor for a night.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
not about punishing yourself.
Okay.
It's about training your mind and body to be less reliant on comfort and luxury.
I can see how that would make you mentally tougher,
Yeah.
but how does it help you appreciate what you have?
By experiencing discomfort, you start to appreciate the things you normally take for granted.
Okay.
For instance, after a cold shower, you'll really appreciate a hot one.
That's so true. It's like resetting what you consider comfortable. By choosing to experience discomfort, you become more grateful for all the good stuff in your life.
Exactly. And that gratitude can make you feel more content and happy.
This is all making so much sense. It's like Stoicism is this toolbox full of strategies for navigating the challenges of modern life.
It is.
We've covered so much ground, from negative visualization and mindfulness to focusing on what we can control,
Yeah.
making good decisions, managing our emotions, and even embracing discomfort.
It's been a lot.
It has.
And I think it's important to remember that Stoicism isn't just about learning stuff. It's about putting these ideas into action.
Absolutely. It's not just about talking the talk, it's about walking the walk.
I like that.
And that's what we'll be talking about more in part 3 of our deep dive into Stoicism.
Yes.
We'll be sharing some key takeaways and practical tips for using these ancient principles in your daily life. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to our final segment on Stoicism. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm feeling so inspired by all of this ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how these ideas from centuries ago are still so relevant to our lives today. It really is remarkable how Stoicism transcends time and cultures. These principles offer a timeless guide for dealing with the challenges of being human.
I'm especially struck by how true happiness doesn't come from achievements or possessions, but from something deeper inside. It's a refreshing perspective in a world that constantly tells us we need more.
It's a powerful reminder to focus on what truly matters. Things like living a virtuous life,
Yes,
nurturing meaningful connections, and making a positive impact on the world around us.
absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive on Stoicism,
Okay.
what are some of the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember? What are the most important nuggets of wisdom to carry with them?
First and foremost, remember the power of focusing on what you can control.
Okay.
This one principle can completely change how you approach life's challenges. It's about understanding that while you can't control everything that happens to you, you always have a choice in how you respond.
That's such a powerful reminder. It's about shifting from feeling like a victim of circumstances to becoming the author of your own experience.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your judgments, and using that power to navigate the external world more effectively.
So it's not about being passive or just accepting whatever comes your way, but it's about strategically choosing where you direct your energy and focus.
Exactly. And remember, Stoicism is also about living a virtuous life.
Yes.
Those 4 cardinal virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control, can guide you in navigating ethical dilemmas,
Okay.
making wise decisions, and treating others with fairness and compassion.
Those virtues are such important reminders to live intentionally and with integrity.
They are.
I love how Stoicism gives us a framework for making choices that align with our values.
It's like a moral compass for life.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Stoicism also offers practical ways to manage our emotions.
It's not about suppressing our feelings, but
Right.
about understanding them,
Yeah.
observing them without judgment.
And not letting them dictate our actions.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to those techniques we discussed, cognitive distancing and rational analysis.
Yeah.
They're such simple but powerful ways to create some space between ourselves and our emotions,
They are.
so we can respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting impulsively.
Exactly. Those techniques can be so helpful in a world full of triggers. It's about becoming the master of your own mind instead of letting your emotions control you.
And finally, I think it's so important to remember Stoicism's emphasis on simplicity, moderation, and gratitude.
Absolutely.
These principles can be so grounding in a world that constantly tells us we need more to be happy.
It's about finding contentment in the present moment, appreciating what you have, and focusing on experiences rather than material things.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
I love that. It's a reminder that true happiness comes from within,
Yeah.
from cultivating inner peace and fulfillment that doesn't depend on outside circumstances.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that self-discovery and growth are ongoing journeys. Stoicism is something you practice throughout your life,
Yeah.
a continuous effort to live a more virtuous and meaningful life.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Stoicism,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question.
Right.
We talked about the importance of focusing on what's within your control.
Yes.
How could this principle change how you approach a challenge you're facing right now? What if you shifted your perspective to focus on what you can influence?
That's a really great question to think about. And as you reflect on that, remember that even small intentional steps can create big changes.
Okay.
So what's one action you can take today to embody one of those Stoic virtues we talked about? It could be something as simple as practicing mindfulness for a few minutes, choosing patience over anger in a difficult situation,
Yeah.
or expressing gratitude for something you normally take for granted.
It's about making those conscious choices that align with your values and contribute to your well-being and the well-being of those around you.
Exactly. And remember, the wisdom of Stoicism is a gift that keeps on giving.
I like that.
The more you explore these ideas and actually apply them in your life,
Yeah.
the more you'll discover their depth and how much they can transform your life.
This has been an awesome journey into Stoicism.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners are as inspired as I am to keep exploring this ancient philosophy and how it can impact our lives today. So keep seeking, keep learning, and keep diving deep.